Since they're both on the same mortgage application, they're both going to be on title. The debts and the poor credit that your co-applicant and co-signer can bring are going to have a full effect on the application.
So let's talk about, I'm going to buy a property, and I get asked this question way too often on my YouTube channel. What structure should I buy it in? So let's chat about what are the implications from a lending perspective, whether I decide to buy a property personally, in a partnership, in a corporation. How does that impact financing?
Yeah, I think the first place you want to start with is let's take a look at some residential properties. So let's say you're purchasing anywhere from a single family home to a 4-unit. We'll keep them in the residential. There's a couple different things you can do. Starting off with just having a co-applicant. So oftentimes if we have someone who wants to buy a property and let's say that their income doesn't quite support the application, they can bring on a co-signer. Now a couple things to note when you're bringing on a co-signer. That co-signer is going to be contractually responsible for the mortgage payment, so they're going to be in full assumption of that mortgage as well too. So if anything were to happen, the co-signer will be fully responsible for the mortgage. But the benefit of that is you're able to use all of the employment income and credit score that co-applicant is going to bring. So if you're looking at bringing on like a partner and they have a strong income with a really high credit, that's going to look much more enticing to a bank and to a lender, and that's going to help bring some strength, especially when we go back talking about those GDS ratios, because you're still within the residential side. It's a ratio of debt to income, so the more income you can have, the less ratio you're going to have of debt to income. So
yeah. I can touch a little bit on buying a piece of property through a corporation. So I know that a lot of people have some outlandish ideas about, if I buy a company through a corporation, I'm not personally responsible, they're not coming after me. That is not the case. So a corporation is great to protect yourself with partners. It sets out a variety of rules on what you can do when selling property, what other directors or what other people have in regards to shares and equity and how that kind of gets displaced. But the majority of the time, unless you're a giant corporation who's running a ton of money through this corporation, you're going to have to personally sign and guarantee the loan. So you can write your 0112345 Ontario Inc. on it, but John Henry has to sign and guarantee it, and so does the other people, the directors on the corporation. So it's important to realize that there are benefits. Talk to your accountant about it. Talk to somebody in regards to how you want to structure maybe how you're getting paid and how you're showing that revenue. But keep in mind that purchasing through a corporation is something that you should talk to your power team about first, and then kind of plan that out before just buying a corporation and purchasing property through it.
So you touched upon how a partner or co-signer can help me. Can they also hurt me? So let's say that I'm going to be buying a property with my brother and he's a deadbeat and he doesn't pay his bills. Can that impact my application?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have a co-signer, and that's a little bit different than someone who's going to be a guarantor. A guarantor comes in and they bring strength from a reputation. So maybe someone who's the primary applicant has really good income, but they've had some credit problems in the past and their credit's a little bit bruised. So obviously that guarantee of payment comes to a risk for the lender. We can bring on a guarantor who's able to bring their credit to the application and helps to gives the lender a little bit of peace of mind. But on a guarantor, they're not contractually responsible for the actual payments of the mortgage. So if something were to happen, they have to go through the standard process of receiving their payments through the actual applicant. On the co-signer, going back, since they're both on the same mortgage application, they're both going to be on title. The debts and the poor credit that your co-applicant and co-signer can bring are going to have a full effect on the application. So if you do bring someone in who, let's say they're making $100,000, but maybe they had a bankruptcy in the last 6 months, or maybe they have a few lines of credits that they've maxed out in a credit card and they just bought a new car, all those debts are going to come onto the application as well and will affect the entire GDS-TDS ratio of the application. So it can be beneficial to have a co-signer, but it can also be detrimental as well too, depending on what their portfolio looks like.
Yeah, I think it's important to also realize that when people are really worried about getting into a property, but what about renewal? So if your co-signer isn't fiscally responsible and ends up getting really, really bad credit, not paying their bills, and it comes time renewal, and the lender's like, well, you guys missed a bunch of payments. Your credit score tanks. Like, why should we renew you? Kind of thing. It could cause some issues later on. So really ensuring that your cosigner really likes you, or like you guys are really close because you guys own that house together, and that asset is something that you guys are buying together, so it's important to really trust that person.
Yeah, and one of the things we like to do is just have a talk with that cosigner beforehand to make sure they understand the large obligation that they're going to be assuming when they do come on to a mortgage. Everyone talks about a cosigner, but not everyone understands what it means, right? So it's important to make sure that they fully understand the risks associated with that coming on as a cosigner.